I'm gonna let you record, my man.
We are streaming right now,
Recording
but
in
I'm going to
progress.
record.
Oh wait, sorry, stop recording.
Recording stopped.
Hi, folks out there. Welcome. Welcome. We're going to get started in just 1 second here as I hit
All right.
record.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. If you're listening on podcast form, you did not just see our little behind the scenes and really streaming live on YouTube snafu where we almost forgot to hit the record button. We've done that before. It's not a fun process going back and fixing it, but we got it. We're good. Everything's fine. Hi, my name is Kai. I'm here with Jim and Matt. This is our podcast. It's episode 338. Goodness gracious. Thanks if you listened to all of these episodes. Even if you haven't, if you're new, welcome. Welcome. We hope to have some fun today and talk about college hoops. Jim, hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Kai. I'm glad we got that little snafu figured out because yeah, it is a painful process. But a lot of great hoops this past weekend. The early slate Saturday really showed out for all the people that were watching before football. Some wild endings, triple OT game, Creighton Seton Hall, all kinds of great stuff to discuss here. So let's do it. Let's get into it, Matthias.
We are calling this the shouts to or sayonara to Stubbs. Just kind of looking at DePaul's KenPom page right now, it really jumps, kind of hits you right in the face. Like they are 280th overall. Just a really, it's a wow state of affairs right now. But hey, we'll talk about it in today's episode. Just want to kind of set the table, Kai. Table setter.
Yeah, a little run of the mill episode here. Roots Roundup. We've sawed that. Some three-man thoughts, some game previews, and of course, we end our shows now with the review section. Got quite a few reviews in the hopper. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We will be reading those at the end. Some questions in there as well. We will touch on more college basketball topics. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. 3MW_CBB is where you can find it. Subscribe, please. Please subscribe. YouTube channel. Three Man Weave. You just search that. YouTube should be able to find us. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave reviews. Again, we'll read the ones that we've gotten through the Apple medium at the end of the show. Fellas, housekeeping, teaser. Can we tease? Just a tease, Jim? Just a quick tease on maybe the Best Bet Show revival. Coming back more than just one day a week. We're close. We're very close on a deal. Jim.
Fingers are crossed. Yeah, it sounds tentatively agreed. We're hoping like start of February, and it will be free for all listeners, not a Patreon type situation. So ideally, it's going to work out great for us and for the listeners. That is the goal. We've been hammering it away in the behind the scenes world, but would love to have it back. Talking games, it won't be every day. It'll probably be 4 or 5 times a week. The big slates, we will ignore the Friday week ones, but yeah, we're excited to have it back and discuss more games with the chat.
Yeah, stay tuned. We'll have our Saturday show this weekend as planned, and then from there, hopefully we'll have better clarity on when we will resume our almost daily show going forward. Okay, that does it for the housekeeping items. Let's get into the meat of the show. Let's go to Roots Roundup.
That's right, Kai. We're talking Roots Roundup news and notes here, but before we do, we must hat tip our wonderful sponsor over at CBB Analytics.
CBB Analytics, cbbanalytics.com, the best 30,000-foot view of the numbers in college hoops. Whether you're a die-hard college basketball fan, a casual college basketball fan, or a sports bettor, both casual and hardcore, you will love this website. It is college basketball bliss. It is a fantastic way to slice and dice basically any data set, stat, trend you're looking to really dig into, conference, non-conference, every single team in the country, players, on and off numbers, huge for injuries, can be a big edge to find in the market. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it at cbbanalytics.com. You can also use our promo code WEAVE at checkout. That gives you a $40 off subscription coupon to use on this lovely site. I do think there's free trials available, but if you're interested, if you want to get more into the data of things, check out cbbanalytics.com. You will not be disappointed.
All right. Love it, Kai. Yes, we adore CBB Analytics. Super, super useful. But news and notes, guys. Is that Terrence Shannon's music? Oh, he's back. Terrence Shannon has returned for Illinois. thanks to a temporary restraining order. It is a huge year for temporary restraining orders. That's why all the two-time transfers are playing. That's why Terrence Shannon is back on the floor. Matt, are they having a moment right now?
Yeah, good for restraining orders, I guess, but bad for the potential victims associated with them, right? I don't know how to phrase that properly, but yeah, it is wild how common they have become.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously has nothing to do with guilty or not. We are making no judgment. The point is, Terrence Shannon's back in the court, Kai, and Illinois' odds had dipped pretty far in the futures market, and they very quickly shot back up. I think they had fallen all the way to like 100 to 1 at Circa, and they're
Really?
back up to 40 to 1.
Did
Yeah.
you buy the dip?
I got in at 50 to 1 via a colleague out in the desert, but
Yes.
unfortunately did not quite get the triple digits because that was an eyebrow raiser, and they were very smart to adjust it once he was back in there.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we'll talk Stubblefield now, Matt. I know you've written a 12-minute eulogy for his tenure. You mentioned 280th in KenPom. That is 60 spots worse than Patrick Ewing ever was at Georgetown. It's 100 spots worse than the 0-19 Big East team that Patrick Ewing had. I mean, this team is a complete joke. They rolled over a lot. They gave up over 2 points per possession in a full half against Texas A&M. What are your thoughts, Matt? I continue to eulogize Mr. Stubblefield's tenure.
It was just from the get-go, we all were like, really, this is the hire? Like, I think it was, you can Monday morning quarterback it, but I think we could have also Sunday morning quarterback this going in. Like, I just think it was always a disaster. My brother and I were discussing, like, that's 2 in a row now where it's like going into it's like, okay, I don't know. Feels like a classic DePaul type move. And now they have a third time, which should be a charm, to resurrect themselves. Some phenomenal names popping up in early searches. The one I want to discuss is Bobby Mother Effin Hurley, who I think some DePaul fans would probably roll their eyes at as sort of a retread, not off the beaten path. I think Bobby Hurley would be a nice little gift, though, for the Demons. He would at least be a high.
Why would he take
floor
that?
Yeah,
gift.
that's my question. Why would he take it?
that?
I think Bobby Hurley's tired of the whole Arizona sunshine and rainbow. I think he wants to get back to a gritty northern city, true to his Jersey
Midwest
roots, akin to his father and akin to his brother. I think he wants to be kind of get, roll up the sleeves a little bit, kind of grime it up again. I think DePaul would be a good landing.
I think Norlander speculated in his article that it might be a non-starter being in the same league as his brother. Like they don't want to coach against each other.
They don't want to go against each other
in the Big East. So that could be something. And yeah, Kai, I saw a couple of people be like, man, they could have had Shire last time. Gottlieb replied he turned it down. And I think a lot of people turned it down.
Yes.
That's why it ended up being Stubblefield.
It's like why we hired Ladow again in Stubblefield. It's because nobody wants this job. Like I've seen Josh Schertz, Bryce Drew, Brian Wardle being mentioned.
Such
all
wishful
these
thinking. Yeah.
I mean, this is not a good job, and people think it is because it's Chicago, but there's not a lot of NIL money here. There's not a recent tradition of history. There is a good tradition going back to the late 80s and the early 90s, but that doesn't matter right now. And you're competing against Illinois and other schools around the Chicago area, which have a huge draw, much bigger than DePaul.
Yeah, and they built the new arena, but it's still not on campus. It's not like the easiest thing to get to. You can take like the red line down there, but it's the support isn't quite there, and rallying a community with so many other sports teams, both professional and college, is really rather difficult at this point. So yeah, I'm curious to see who they will get to actually bite on the hook. I think a lot of those like glamorous, exciting names, even the like mid-major studs, may not want this one as their shot at the big leagues.
I think, and actually Ted just mentioned, that's what I was going to say, Will Wade. I think Will Wade would consider taking it, and I think it would be a home run hire.
Yeah,
I think
do they really want somebody with his baggage? Like, yes,
they do.
Want someone that can win. Of course, they should. They absolutely should.
Scott in the chat, Greg Marshall, absolutely, literally anybody that has had a good coaching track on court or off the court aside, hire them.
Yeah, Stubblefield was baggage with no upside. You can get baggage with upside.
Did he have
that's
baggage?
Sort of.
Well, they were just like some of the guys they had brought in at Oregon that had some, like Dominic Artis had some shady background stuff.
Yeah, no, I think there is some fat there on I think Will Wade's happy in the Bayou. I actually don't think he's going to take the offer. I think he kind of likes his setup right now. He's comfortable after all the mess that he went through. I think he's sort of in a cruise control, not looking to jump seat. That's just my body language read on Mr. Wade.
I'm not positive about this, but I think McNeese might have more NIL money than DePaul, and
They have a ton of money down
making
there.
that up. I'm not making that
T.O.
up.
was
Like,
saying this too. We talked about him in the Final Four. Like he's got a good setup down there. I think he's going to be more comfy than people think.
yeah. So yeah, that will be an interesting search to follow because I don't think they're going to get their number 1, number 2, and number 3 options. Was the last like Nick Cronin's like number 7 option for UCLA very publicly, and that's certainly not having a great season right now. But they did make a Final Four. So yep. All right, let's move to recruiting news. Nothing in 2024, but Illinois did nab a top 50 recruit in 2025, Jeremiah Fears. I was surprised there was well publicized as a 5-star recruit. I think the recruiting services vary pretty wildly on Mr. Fears. I don't think he's related to Jeremy Fears, and that just confuses me because Jeremy Fears is from Joliet, Illinois. Jeremiah Fears is going to Illinois. I don't like it, Matt. There's too many Fears.
They're not related?
I don't believe so, but you can audit me, or the chat.
It's a great last name though. If a next guard that comes through with Fears, I'm going to probably be a buyer. I just kind of like the last name a lot.
There you go.
Fearless, obvious connection there. So,
but that's it for recruiting. That's it for no transfer news. Obviously, I don't think we have any long-term injuries to discuss, which we love an in-season pod where we can go a week without lamenting the loss of a player. I guess we should mention Big Z is eligible at Kentucky, fellas. I think a lot of people were like, oh my goodness, this is going to he's going to take the world by storm. I was skeptical. Kai said he'd play less than 8 minutes per game. And then he came out and hit his first 3 threes at Rupp Arena, completely lit the world on fire. Everybody's like, this guy's a star. The follow-up performance wasn't quite there though.
Yeah. 13 points, 16 minutes. He hit threes. He blocked shots. He even got a technical foul. So he really got his money's worth in his debut.
Stuffer, yes, sir.
He looked really good, fluid, shot looked good. I was like, oh, okay, this guy's for real. And then he had 3 points, 3 fouls in 10 minutes against South Carolina. So that's the follow up there. It's not going to be all rainbows and sunshine for Big Z, but he clearly is a good player, and Kentucky's got a really good basketball team over there.
Yeah, and he's going to be asked to do less than a lot of those international freshmen at UCLA that are like, hey, we kind of need you to be a key piece. He can be their 8th man and throw in a couple threes. And if he's not playing well, Matt, they can go other directions.
Yeah, they need to start guarding at some point. Like defense, I know it's optional when you're scoring 195 and 90 and whatever they were racking up, but at some point, getting a stop might be, worth investing in as a UK player or coach.
They need Tiero back. I think he's like legitimately super important to some of the small ball stuff they're trying to do. He guards multiple positions. Looking at CVB analytics right now, their defense, it says it's not very different with him on the floor. That doesn't match the eye test to me. I think he's really important. I think Kentucky fans would agree. They need to get him back there. So that's going to be big for Big Blue. Also, stat boy correction from the chat. The Fears bros are indeed brothers. So
that's awesome. That's
why we have this.
Jeremiah and
when they're
Jeremy.
Not brothers.
We don't need to
when they're not brothers.
We don't need to do Jeremy and Jeremiah.
I'm with that. Also, surprising they're going to be going head to head in the Big Ten. Although maybe Jeremy won't be there. This is class of 2025 for Jeremiah, so he's still a little ways down the road. Also, Kai, one other random news and note bit: Blake Hinson went into Matt's Cameron Indoor, and just a terrific photo, getting up on the scorer's table after knocking off, I will say, shorthanded Duke, missing 2 starters, 2 very important starters, but a massive, massive win for the Panthers and an iconic photo.
Unreal. Yeah. One of the coolest photos we've seen in college basketball history. Gets up there, taunts all the nerds in the Cam and Crazy contingent.
Couple of birds. See a couple of birds back at him. Yeah. Duke shedding that nerd dork reputation there with a couple of middles there back at.
They're flipping the bird like the
Loved
nerd
it.
way to do it, and like
it's great.
I heard a lot of frick yous and stuff like that. Like gosh darn it,
Screw
get
off.
down. Screw like Hawes, who got hurt for BYU. He was like, F off, the ankle.
It was funny to just like go image by image, looking at the different faces in the Duke crowd and be like, oh, that guy's actually angry. That person looks indifferent. Just it's always, I love those crowd shots.
Hey, Pitt's back.
No, they're not.
Pitt's
2
back.
in a row. Just beat Georgia Tech on the road. 3 and 5.
Yeah, that's mainstream media Matt. Mainstream media Matt is at it again. The reactionary
Narratives.
takes, the what have you done for me lately? This is what we try to avoid on this podcast.
In the moment, now, here. Present.
I hate it. But yeah, that's it for Roots Roundup. I will pass the mic back to Mr. McEwen for We Saw That.
We saw that. We saw a lot of things this past week. First and foremost, McNeese State survived a ridiculous game against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It was on ESPNU, so there are a lot of eyeballs on this one. I was watching it. They were down by like 18 points. It was looking to be a runaway for Corpus Christi, a very feisty team in the Southland. McNeese came all the way back, missed a free throw to tie the game with like 3 seconds left, somehow got the rebound, somehow put it back in and ended up winning by 1. But an absolutely nuts comeback. They are the best team in this league, but boy, it just goes to show you in college basketball and conference play, anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, Kai, they have not played a Q1 game. They're 2-2 versus Q2. If they go all the way to the Southland title game and they're like 30-3 with a loss in the title game, they've got a couple of okay Q2 wins in the non-conference that I could see shoehorning Will Wade into the tournament as a wonderful storyline. Throw him to the first 4.
So wasn't it at Michigan they won? That's Q2?
Yeah, at Michigan. Michigan's not very good.
Oh,
I think they won at VCU too.
Yeah,
as well.
no, I'm surprised both those are Q2. I think those 2 wins would be enough to be, if they do what you said, I think that would be enough to get an at-large. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there'd be clamoring for it. And their losses aren't bad. Road at Western Carolina, road at Louisiana Tech. Both those teams are top 2 or 3 in their leagues. So I think it'd be kind of fun to see an at-large out of the Southland. But as this game showed us, it's not going to be easy to go through that league unscathed, even against lesser competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Individual performances we should shout out here. Rink Mast, the Dutchman, who's now at Nebraska, a Bradley transfer, 34, 10, 4, and 2 blocks, 13 for 17 from the field against Ohio State. Nebraska, Matthew, I would say, is for real. I'm buying in. Big Red, you're for real.
I believe as well. Bubblicious for sure. I'm sure they'll do the Big Ten seesaw, win at home, lose on road, and we'll see where that lands them by mid-March. But I am all aboard the mayor. I've been aboard the mayor for like the last 2 years, so I just want to put on, the record that I have never lost faith in this program or this team under the mayor's direction. Again, my penthouse resident at the top of the 435. I won't give out my full address, but yes, he lives here. So yeah, I'm obviously biased, but they look good, Kai. They play defense, and their offense is like super.
They can
delectable.
shoot the crap out of the ball, especially at home. They just like don't miss threes at home.
He has an apartment in your building? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he owns, or his family owns one of the penthouse units in the building. Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Huh. Good for him. Other good performance here. Mikhail Brown Jones from UNC Greensboro recently came back off the injury train, I suppose. Had 39 points against the Citadel last Wednesday. We see you, mid-majors. We see you. The SoCon, very fun league. Furman and Sanford play tomorrow, Thursday, for a very big game. SoCon's fun league if you ever get a chance to watch it. Triple doubles galore. Yes, we had 3 of them. Air Force's Ryan Petritis. Speaking of guys coming off the injured list.
Rightus
Petritis. Goodness gracious. Rightus Petritis. I can't believe, is it right? It's probably Ritus Petritis. 18, 13, 11, plus 2 steals and 3 blocks. In a win at UNLV, they smashed Matt's running Rebels. I mean, they smashed them. Going 14 for 28 from 3 helps. But goodness, Matt, what was that?
Yeah, UNLV, I think at this point, like, momentum was actually there a week ago, I'd say, and then this is just sort of like a atomic bomb you don't come back from. I think if you're Kevin Kruger, who has already been hearing a ton of people want his head on a spike out there in the desert gym. You can probably test this being out there longer or before you returned to the Shy. I just think it's this inconsistency with this team is like a annual tradition. And the swings this year have been as volatile as ever, right? You beat Creighton, smack Creighton, beat New Mexico by double digits. When at Boise, you should have won at Colorado State, and then it all comes back to a 40-point demolition against the Air Troops. Pretty bad.
It just seems like UNLV is actually a hard job. Like Otzelberger didn't really win there. He's winning in the Big 12. Marvin Menzies won in the WAC, didn't win there. Even Todd Simon had a year there. It was okay. Just not a team that's made the tournament recently, unfortunately. Not since Lon. Actually, Dave Rice got a couple in there, but Yeah, I don't know, Kai. This was a bad, embarrassing performance. It's funny that Petritis is on NBA radars because like
Is he?
they
Wow.
have the armed forces commitment. Like, does he get to postpone that to go play
Oh
in the
yeah, that's
NBA?
right.
I don't know exactly how that works, but
He is
yeah, I think
awesome.
he's like a
He's a
role
very good
player
player.
candidate in the NBA.
Wow, good for him. I cannot think of the last Air Force guy that's gone to the NBA. You have to help me out on that one.
Yeah,
I'm
like
just thinking like David Robinson out of
right?
Navy
That's
like
like the
got to
only
Navy.
name.
postpone his
Yeah.
service. Yeah.
Okay, Kadari Richmond. Yeah, this guy is a walking triple double. He had 21, 11, 11, albeit in 3 overtimes against Creighton.
And
And
shot 8 of 32 from the field.
8 of 32 from the field is
He
crazy.
missed everything in the lane. It was wild.
Yeah, we've talked about Seton Hall a few times on this program. Good team. They're physical, man. They're just they hit the hardest shots in college basketball. I will say that. That can lend to some bad efforts most likely down the road, but very tough team. I wouldn't want to bet against them on any given night. And then Chicago State. Congratulations. Jay Sean Corbett, 27, 19, 11 against East-West, a non-D1 opponent, but still, great stat line. You know, one time I had a 63 point, 32 rebound performance in the J League. Matthew, don't know if you knew that, but yes,
I think
that's
I
right.
did. You told me about that like
putting up
20
big
times.
stats against competition, any competition is impressive, Jim.
Yeah, it's impressive, and we just wanted to make sure to honor Chicago State before their season ends. They've only got 3 D1 games left. The string has almost run out on the independent campaign for the Cougars. Terrific job by Mr. Gillian. Great season from Corbett. So wanted to give him a hat tip.
Hey, give him the
should we
DePaul
go to-
job. Gerald Gillian.
Yeah,
Fine with
I'm
that.
actually okay with that. I wouldn't hate it. I mean, the bar's pretty low right now. I just want to point out we should probably attend their home finale against Indiana Northwest, February 19th. I think it'd just be the right thing to do.
Yeah, you go down there and you let us know how that is. You can report
Okay.
live for the Weave. Okay, finally, in Weave saw that, the bad loss section, Purdue Fort Wayne. Goodness gracious. You lost to IUPUI at home as a 16.5 point favorite. Goodness gracious. They started off 4-0 in the league, Jim. They're now 4-5. What's happened to the Mastodons?
I want Matt to tell me because he was big on Fort Wayne in the non-conference, and he was right. Like, they were really solid, and now they're just kind of circling the drain. This 5-game losing streak. Matt, explain it to me.
I can't. Kind of had a tough schedule start, and then Robert Morris, IUPUI, and then really bad. IUPUI did this last year though. I know we're not like into late February yet, but they kind of started to play competitively by the end of the season. Maybe they're going to start doing that a little earlier this year. I think they're just outright bad, but this is not a very good league, and it's a league that they may actually like start to look better as teams take them lightly. Later
They
in the
lost to
year.
Robert Morris at home by 17 the following game.
Right, and they lost Robert Morris on the road by how much? What was that?
44.
Yeah, so Robert Morris, I think, is treating IUPUI how they should be treated, but they don't always get treated that way in that league. I hate this conference. I'm tired of the inconsistency. I don't know who's good and who's not good at this point.
Tell you what, it's not just the Horizon. There's a lot of conferences like that this
Summit,
season.
same
It's
thing.
very tough to peg, tough to bet, tough to gamble. Yes, I guess we can touch on Kansas losing to West Virginia. It's at West Virginia. They're good at home. Still probably a game you don't want to lose if you're KU. West Virginia, pretty clearly the worst team in this league. Maybe Oklahoma State.
Yeah, well, it's going to tie into one of my thoughts, Kai. We'll talk Big 12, but Kansas has played, I would argue, the 3 easiest road games you can in this conference: UCF, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia, and they're 1-2 in those games. So is it going to stiffen up for them? Is Kansas really Kansas this year? There's, I think, discussion to be had there.
Absolutely. And in fact, I mentioned Kansas is one of my thoughts, Jim. Let's get to the thoughts right now. 3-man thoughts time. Here we go.
Thoughts.
An ad first, of course, from Home Field Apparel. I'm wearing a nice little Mizzou sweatshirt. I always wear Home Field at my home. I wear it out also because Home Field Apparel is the best. They make the comfiest clothes on planet Earth. Joggers, sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, dad hats. Why not? Bombers. They got everything. They just released a nice little Nevada package. I tell you what, I'm not a Nevada guy, but some pretty awesome gear. Some gear I'm thinking of purchasing down the road. I know they just released maybe some Arkansas and maybe another Kansas shirt recently. I need to check in with my Home Field guy. But the point is, you can go to their website, homefieldapparel.com, buy these awesome clothing items. Again, 200 schools roughly to choose from right now. Constantly getting more and more and more. Great guys. You can use our promo code 2 at checkout. 15% off your purchase. 3MW is the promo code. Homefieldapparel.com. Homefield, wear one for the team. And
I
here
like
we
you
go.
having a home field guy. That was good. You're like, I got to talk
Yes.
to my home field guy.
We all got guys in the business and the industry. I happen to have a home field guy. Okay, 3-man thoughts. Welcome. Yes, thank you, Job, in the chat. Please hit the like and subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, we would appreciate that. If you're listening to podcast, hop on the internet real quick and just like the YouTube for us. Jim, let's start with you. Let's go 3-man thought from old Jim.
All right. Well, yeah. Why not just go into the Big 12, considering we're discussing it? I'm going to make us re-rank it, fellas, because I think it's rather difficult to sort out. I think we could probably all agree Houston's 1, right? Can I get nods from you? Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're slotting Houston at 1. Then we have to decide, is Kansas in that tier? Are they not? How on earth do you sort out 3 through 11? I guess is probably where I would put it right now. I'm still leaving UCF, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State as the bottom tier, but UCF has been mighty feisty in league play so far. Matt, I'm going to go to you. Give me a rough idea of your rankings. You know what? I'll give you mine first just to let you think about it. So I've got Houston 1, Kansas. I'm still giving you that 2 spot despite the very shaky road performance. And for title futures, by the way, Houston does not play at Kansas State, Oklahoma State, or West Virginia. So their road schedule is brutal. That's 3 of the 4 easiest you could probably have in the league. And they only get at UCF of that bottom group. So we'll see if Houston's able to win despite that schedule. But Houston 1, Kansas 2. I'm going Baylor 3, Texas Tech 4, BYU 5, Iowa State 6, Cincinnati 7. They've been really in every game, losing by like 5 or less in every single one. Texas, then Oklahoma. I'm gonna give credit to the Longhorns for whooping Oklahoma's butt in Norman. And TCU all the way down at 10th. Felt weird about that. K-State 11th, and then UCF, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. Matthew, where did I go wrong? Is there a team you want to specifically go to bat for?
I think so. The high level ranking is Houston 1, Kansas 1B.
Oh, you still
Baylor
got them 1B, huh?
Yeah, I'm backing on Kansas. I'm a step ahead of the market on Kansas all year. I said they were not great. They haven't looked great. Now I think they're actually going to get back to great or close to great because Johnny Furphy is looking really good. I know they had a tough. I mean, West Virginia just shot the crap out of the ball. I mean, I'm not going to hold them against that. I think they're
But
going to
they
be really good.
couldn't get away from Cincinnati at home with Furphy playing out of his mind. I don't know.
Yeah, Cincinnati made some cockroach runs late, but I felt like Kansas was mostly like they had that game. If I watched a little bit of the second half, maybe I don't know. And Cincy kind of desperate too. I don't know, Big 12's tough. Like there's a reason I think it's top 5 in close game percentage this year. Like home court matters, but I don't think you're going to see like a ton of huge blowouts at home either. I don't know, maybe in some spots, but Houston 1, Kansas 1B, and then 3 through 11, Jim. Like legitimately, they're all the same to me. Like especially Iowa State, Oklahoma, TCU. In Kansas State. Texas Tech is a team I'll go to bat for. I think they actually have some intriguing upside as like being the 3rd or 4th best team. I'm still respecting Baylor as my quasi number 3 team, but certainly they've started to miss some jump shots and they look a little more mortal, although they are still 3-2, despite not shooting that great in the conference, Kai. I kind of think UCF is up there as well. I definitely think they're a cut above Oklahoma State, who stinks. And I probably would put West Virginia above them as well because they're going to get Jesse Edwards back. And that's finally a team that you can be excited about to a point with like chapter 1, everybody with Edwards, chapter 2 with everybody without Edwards, chapter 3 with Edwards and all the other guards. So I don't know. Tough. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the chat here. I think Jim's too low on TCU. I've been very impressed by the Horned Frogs personally. Should be 4-1 in this league right now. But Houston is 1 for me. They should be. They should have beaten Kansas, and they should have beaten Cincinnati. Both teams, absolutely.
Man, I don't know. I don't know if you could say they should have. I could say they should have lost to Oklahoma State then, because they were down almost that entire game.
That's true. Yeah, good point. Houston 1, Kansas 2, Baylor 3, BYU 4 for me, and then I'm probably going TCU at 5. I'm still an OU believer. Them, Iowa State, Texas Tech are pretty much the same for me. Then Texas, K-State, then it's Cincy for me. and then UCF, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Punching down at TC or at Cincy, excuse me. How dare you? Those
Yeah,
poor Bear kids.
I think they're really good, but this is a really good league. Really
Yep.
good league.
Yeah, and
I
that's
watched
like
since
people are like, Jim, you're too low on TCU. I think all those teams can very easily make the NCAA tournament right now, and 11 could flip up to 6 in a week. So it's tough to figure.
Indeed. Hey, good Big 12 sort. Matthew, take the rock.
dissecting the Divas. I actually have a Big 12 team in my little 4-pack of squads I want to discuss. I'm calling them Divas because these are 4 teams that feels like they dominate the Twitter sphere. They have polarizing coaches to a degree who are prone to polarizing comments and post-game stuff, and their seasons have largely been very roller coastery, and all of them sit squarely on the bubble, although on the better side of the bubble. For 3, I'd say Texas is probably on the unfavorable side of the bubble, but they are trending up, you would say. Just to spoil one, the other 3, Memphis, obviously, with all the drama they've been going through, Sparty, Michigan State, and St. John's. I just think it's a fun little cluster of teams where after every game, you think a team is playing like the 96 Bulls, and the next 3 nights or next game 3 nights later, you think they're about to be relegated to D2. I think all of them play in tough leagues where you're going to see the oscillations continue all the way throughout the year. But Kai, is there any one of these 4 teams that you think can really make a legitimate run in the tournaments? And it's kind of a tough question because I know it's so random and volatile. Which one do you truly believe in as a sustainable long-term team, despite the inevitable ebbs and flows, the landmines they'll step on throughout conference play?
Yeah, you kind of got me thinking. I was trying to pull up Haslametrics and do the consistency rankings of these teams. I bet they're pretty low, but I don't have the computer power right now.
I got it.
I'm tracking different things.
I'll fill for you.
Out of these 4 teams, Memphis, Sparty, St. John's, Texas, boy, I'm going Michigan State. I think they still have the ability to play at the level of a top 10 team. I trust Tom Izzo. Well, I trust Rick Pitino probably more than Tom Izzo, but I trust Tom Izzo among the most of these 4 coaches, certainly more than Hardaway and Rodney Terry. And they have great guard play, right? Tyson Walker, All-American. So yeah, I'll go with Sparty out of the 4.
I'm going with the Johnnies, Matthew. I'm gonna take St. John's here. Michigan State's just got some weird vibes on and off with them. Whereas I think St. John's recent swoon has had more to do with illness in the team, no Dingle and Pitino being away. And look, you'll lose by 1 at Creighton. That's not bad at all. You lose by 1 home to Marquette. Not going to punish you for that. And then the Seton Hall debacle was without Rick Pitino. So I actually still very much believe in St. John's. Think they're kind of undervalued relative to where they're rated. Like, I don't think they're 42nd. I think they're a top 25 team. And that's where Ken Pom has them. So I'm going to go St. John's. Michigan State, definitely a close second. I just get a little woozy with some of the quotes you hear out of it. And Greg Waddell had a funny tweet about how Izzo has said, we're going to try to get Xavier Booker more minutes for like 5 months now. It's just not happening. It's not part of the plan there. And their bigs are a little shaky. But yeah, it's Johnny's for me, Matt. The Memphis vibes are terrible, and I can't believe in Texas.
That's why this is a fun exercise, because you have to parse through the coach stuff and like the quasi drama, whatever you want to call it. To like, I actually like all of these teams a lot. Like, I mean, Texas is. I know we've been naysaying Rodney Terry, but like the roster is really good, and we saw how good they were late down the stretch. You can certainly see them recapturing that magic again this season.
Yeah, and
especially with some real size up front, Disu and Shedrick. And then Memphis, Sparty, and St. John's, like on the court, I feel like I love what I'm seeing for the most part. You take away the COVID thing for Rick Pitino, you take away the slip up at Northwestern for Sparty and some of the early trials tribulations, and then for Memphis, like I still love Memphis. I think they're really good. Like as I've said many times, the Americans way better than people think, and you're going to see both them and FAU take some close games and close losses, and people are going to write them off. But that will be unjustifiably so. So I will believe in all 4 of these teams. Clear out the bandwagons. I'll have more elbow room as people get off, as they probably trip up, more than people think going forward. That's just my prediction in the regular season.
Mini credit to Rodney Terry for mega reducing Brock Cunningham's minutes and playing actual Division I players. Last 2 games, probably their 2 best efforts of the year. beating Baylor and winning at Oklahoma. I mean, not the two best, but
Like,
very close
Weaver's
to it.
really good. Weaver is
And
like
yeah,
an
now
A
he's
plus eye test guy. Play him.
and he's starting IT Horton now, who he apparently talked to him and was like, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing coming off the bench. I'm not a bench guy." And now he's like contributing. Cunningham has played 21 total minutes in the last 2 games. He has 6 fouls, 3 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. Like he does nothing. He's just a guy out there. Now you have people that can actually contribute and make it not 5-on-4. I think that is a smart and obvious, but just because it's obvious doesn't mean it's not smart.
I feel the same way about Hayden Hefner for A&M, and I think Buzz heard me as well there. But that's a whole other thought. My thought is complete. Jim, I want your thought, singular.
Actually,
I
it's
want
my
Kai to
thought,
go.
Matthew.
I don't
How
want Kai,
dare
so
you.
I want. I'm kidding, Kai. I'm sorry. Your thought, please.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at futures, and this goes well into Jim's one of his thoughts as well. These are futures I would consider right now. And actually, Matt, we did have a request. You were DM'd asking a certain person has $500 of free roll in their account. He wants to use it on futures. Well, I said, okay, here's a list of maybe futures I'd consider at the current point in state. Keep in mind, I am just referencing DraftKings here. Shop around. There are probably better prices out there at other books. So keep in mind. The worthy of consideration list. North Carolina, 15-1. That ain't bad. They're being priced around like the 10th-ish shortest odds out there in the country. You could argue they're a top 5 team. I think they're still due for some shooting regression. I still don't trust Hubert Davis, but in terms of value, I think 15-1 is not bad on UNC right now. Auburn, I like even better at 15-1. The question marks still arise for they haven't really beaten many good teams. They haven't really won on the road consistently yet, but they're just one of 2 teams right now in KenPom that are top 10 on both ends of the floor. It's Auburn and it's Arizona, and that's it. That's elite company. So Auburn, definitely worthy of your consideration, 15-1. Matt's new team, Kansas, 20-1. Bill Self, 20-1. Johnny Furphy, inserted in the lineup. He's playing a lot better. They now, I'm going to say, have 5 good players on this team.
Yep.
That's
There
a
we
big
go.
jump from 4, Jim. That's a big jump. So Kansas, I think 20-1 is a good bet.
This is exactly, I think, what they were.
125%. Yeah.
So in preseason, I think their price was 20-1. So like, just for context,
Was it?
I think it was inflated to 10-1, then it came back after the
Definitely
struggle.
was
So
10 to
now
1
it's
for a while.
Now it's a good buy the dip time. Good spot by you, Trader Kai.
2 more in the consideration list. Alabama, 30-1. They just have that juice. Okay, that's a term I'm going to use. They have the juice to make a big run in the NCAA tournament. That means they can score explosively. They can go on runs like in Miami. Alabama, 30-1. They're ranked in the top 10 in KenPom. They're being priced like the 30th team right now. So I think that's value, in my opinion.
I was going to be skeptical, but the Miami comp is good enough to back me off. The guards are explosive.
Indeed. And then finally, Wisconsin. That's right, Wisconsin, the Badgers. 40-1. Talk about value. They're top 10-ish team in KenPom right now, and 40-1.
Probably a 2 seed.
Looking at a 1
has them there.
Yeah, they could get to a 1 even if they win the Big Ten. So yeah, not a bad road for Wisconsin. A team I would not consider right now is Purdue. 9-1. That's not good value. We know Painter's problems in the tournament. I don't subscribe to them, but it's there. 9-1. Really, any team I don't think is worth that type of bet. There's just too many teams that can win the title this year. That goes for UConn and Arizona right now too, who are both 10-1. 2 teams that I loved at bigger prices. And congrats if you bought the dip on them. I have some Arizona 16-1, but not at 10-1. It's not somewhere I put my money. And then lastly, 3 flyers. If you just want to take a long shot, pray and spray that one of these teams gets to
Pray and spray. I like that.
a Final Four. San Diego State, 80-1. Why not? Right? Back-to-back Final Fours. Dayton, 90-1. This team is good.
Dayton's awesome.
Really
also,
good.
They're 200-1 at Caesars. Like that is worth it to me.
Are
They're
they
like a 4
200-1 at
seed
Caesars?
right now.
Yeah, that's extremely worth it. Yes, Dayton. And then New Mexico. Again, another team that has the juice. Hashtag has the juice. Lots of explosive scoring ability. Great guards. New Mexico 100-1. Those are the 3 flyers I would keep an eye on if you really want to spend your money. Now, as far as advice, Jim and Matt, on what to use it on, the free roll, different schools of thoughts. There is a mathematical answer to this that professional sports bettors will tell you to do. It's probably smartest to just do 1, or you could split it and pick 2. I wouldn't go too many, is what I'm saying.
Credit to you for including Dayton in your Flyers section.
Yes.
Good synergy, category synergy
Mhm.
there. Proud of you. Kai, can I add Oregon to that? I just like.
Yeah, where
I
are they
still
at?
think they're 125 to 1. At least
Yes,
that
absolutely.
might not be the DK price, but just getting healthier with Shellstad and Dante and Biddle, I think there's a chance they emerge as number 2 in that in the Pac-12, and you might get them at a nice price right now because they just got swept on that very difficult mountain trip. But if they knock off Arizona over the weekend and are sitting atop the Pac-12, suddenly that looks really good.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Getting healthier, Oregon, 125 to 1. Good consideration as well.
I love New Mexico. I love New Mexico. I'm tired of saying it. I love New Mexico. I bet it at circa 200 to 1. I bet it again at 161, and I think I'd still take a little more at 100 to 1 now. I think this team's awesome. I know it's very much skewed toward how good they've been at home, and they haven't been as dominant away from home. I get that, but I believe this team can win anywhere against anybody. So JT Toppin, the not brother of Obi Toppin, to tie it back to Dayton there.
Yes, very good. Ole Miss, questions in the chat. I don't know, man. I don't think their offense is good enough. That's where I'm landing with Ole Miss.
I have a
Yeah,
250 to 1 future with them. I don't even feel great about it. I think they were really, truly a non-conference, not mirage, but yeah,
Well, analytics would say they were. They were ranked still around 100th after.
right.
UConn.
So I don't know. What's the price on this? Is it like 150 to 1?
I have not seen what Ole Miss is. I assume it's around 100.
I wouldn't touch it under 150. I think they are truly a flyer still, in my opinion.
from a bracketology sense, they have a super wide gap between resume metrics and quality metrics, where like how good you have been versus how good you actually are. So they're in the field because they've not lost many games, but they have not been convincing. They just got smacked in their first real big SEC test. Well, I guess they're 2 big SEC tests. They've gotten obliterated by Tennessee and Auburn. So yeah, I'm not ready to subscribe to Ole Miss.
All right, Jim, you want to talk your portfolio? Seems like a good segue maybe here.
Sure. Yeah. If anybody read my quick peek at futures on the 3-Man Weave website in the preseason, you see that I have a very wide ranging portfolio with some holes in it. And I have been able to plug a couple of those holes as the season's gone on. Picked up some Arizona 15 to 1, picked up Auburn at 45 to 1 before they really took off. And just this morning, I had a little free pre-play myself that I was able to put on Tennessee and kind of cover that up. But I don't have a ton of money in them. They're part of the 4 teams I want to talk about here. The 4 big ones, Kai, you already mentioned Wisconsin as a team you think you're intrigued by. But the 4 I don't have in my portfolio, Matt, Tennessee, UConn, Wisconsin, and Kentucky, who looked way better before last night, getting smoked on the road. My question to you, Matt, is how worried should I be? I mean, the nightmare scenario is that this is the Final Four and none of my futures get there, and I have to cry tears of joy or of not joy, tears of mega sadness. How worried about you about this group are you? Who should I be most afraid of? Obviously, it's UConn, but
I think it's UConn. I think the next option for me is Kentucky, and man, I think Wisconsin's been awesome too. Like that's been my probably worst preseason take. I just wasn't buying any ceiling with this team, even though they got Store and some upside there. But Kentucky, to me, like you're right. Once they get Big T back, I think there's just so much. Like they're good as A plus plus plus. Like can go with anybody. Can run anybody off the floor. Yeah, Kentucky, Jim. I looked at my portfolio too. That and Purdue. I don't have Purdue in my portfolio either. I still think they're going to be a better March team. Those are the 2 I was like, I probably should add something at some point. Kentucky for me. I just think the talent's that good. I really do.
yeah, the Kentucky and UConn, Kai, were the ones I've just never had a chance to because they've always been so high in the odds and skeptical of the back-to-back, but the team's good enough to do it for UConn. And yeah, Kentucky's A gear is holy crap.
Yeah, UConn touched 20 to 1, almost scoops it up. Was talking to Big Cat when I was doing Titus's show, name drop, and he grabbed 20 to 1. I said, "Wow, that's really a good move by you," because
fantastic. Yeah,
I wanted to grab it, and yet 10 to 1 now, can't do it. Them and Kentucky are the dangerous teams of that group, Jim.
Where are you at on Tennessee? Can they win national title with Connect offering more offense to go with the typical Barnes defense and athletes? Where do you stand, Kai?
Yes, I'm in on Tennessee. I think they're around 10 to 1 also, though, and I just don't think there's value there in that play. Oh, 16 to 1. Yeah, decent. It's funny that I like Auburn 15-1 more than Tennessee. I just feel like weirdly there's higher upside there with Auburn. Maybe my mind's clouded with Rick Barnes, his performance in the tournament versus Bruce Pearl. Again, not trying to ascribe too much value to that, but it is.
Auburn still has no Q1 wins. Ooh, 0-2.
Tennessee
Q1
rocks. And maybe they found out the formula with Connect. They have the offense this year. Perhaps that's the difference maker.
Yeah. I see Scott asking in the chat, would taking Connect to win the wouldn't be a smarter strategy than taking any Tennessee futures? Edie's winning. I just can't. I know Connect has like a big groundswell of like, whoa, Tennessee guy, white guy is cool. What? I just don't think he can topple Edie with. I mean, Edie just went for like 93-54 in 3 games, like just absurd stats. So I can't recommend that, unfortunately. But at least I like the thought process.
I had that thought too. I was like, I'm basically ready for an injury at that point. I don't really want to be sitting around waiting for an injury to a big guy. It just feels like the wrong thing to do. Like I'm gonna like fist pump if Zach Edey takes a bad tumble at Mackey. Like, no, I'm not that guy.
All right, Matt, it's back to you for thought 2. Are we doing more my guys?
No, we're saving my guys. I watched a lot of ball this last week and I didn't like feel like I had a moment. So we're going to my third thought here, second thought, I guess, third in the order of outline. The bracketology fallacy. I didn't have a great name here. I was workshopping it as we started, but a lot of thoughts. I listened to some bracketology stuff, Field 68, been looking at some bracket matrix stuff. We're now kind of in that moment of the year where we can at least have a semi-serious discussion about it. I think this will be one of the more fascinating, if not the most fascinating season in this from a bracketologist committee selection process because of, conference realignment's part of it. But I think just the fact that we had so many late waiver clearances, guys becoming eligible late, like assessing who you beat has always been a static point, right? Like it doesn't matter when you beat said team. It's, did you beat them? A win against, a discombobulated St. John's team early will still count the same as a win against St. John's now. And I think we'd all agree that's probably shouldn't be how it is. That's a subjectivity that I think is kind of missing in the whole selection process. Impossible to systematically install it, whatever. But
there's
I think
no
this
way
year,
there's no way to take that so subjectively with 50, 60 teams in consideration. That'd be.
I was thinking, like, what if
it would be like what are your preseason rankings? Is what it would be, right?
Yeah,
or like Ken Pom or like metric rank and point in time. But then it's like, well, then if you start early, then you have like no data points and it's all prior. So that's all. It's a mess. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying if there was a year for subjectivity, it would be this year. And I think it's also a year where you're going to see a lot more mid majors shafted. Because they just didn't have the same opportunities to get Q1, Q2 wins in the non-com because they were missing key pieces. And I think just from a general disadvantage standpoint, where mid-majors are always a step behind the 8 ball of scheduling opportunities, I think they were especially hurt this year because there was a shorter non-conference window and you didn't have key players for so many key teams. Just kind of stinks. I'm looking at the bracket matrix S-curve and like, mid-major legitimate at-larges are James Madison, Princeton, and that's it.
Yeah, you're not counting like
Indiana State,
I guess. But I mean, at large, like, are they? I guess they're there, but that's Indiana about State it. Though
and Drake are in the conversation for sure,
and I guess Grand Canyon as well. But but still, it does feel like a lighter at large pool for mid majors, and it'll be an uphill climb just because of the sheer strength of opportunities left on the power conference, the rejiggered power conference schedules. Big 12, 14 teams, SEC already is huge. So yeah, kind of a bummer, I guess, is my final take from that thought. But have you guys had these similar musings in your heads?
I don't think it's much different than every other year, to be honest. The big boys always have more opportunities, unfortunately, for better or worse. Because you got to think about it, Big 12, there's still 4 or 5 teams that are going to fall to the bottom of the standings. Their net's going to fall out of favor. It's not going to become a Q1, Q2 game forever, right? So I think a lot of that gets ironed out by interplay competition, intra-conference competition. If that makes sense.
It does.
Makes sense.
Just bummed. Mike, pass to Kai.
Okay, here we go. Just my last thought here, second and last. The drunk standings list. These are teams that are doing really well right now in conference play that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. And I think I touched on this really early on an episode a couple weeks ago, but I want to revisit this. What's going on, fellas, with these teams here? North Carolina A&T is where we're going to start off. In the Coastal, the CAA, 4-2 in this league. They are 331st in KenPom. They
Monty
are
Ross.
2-11 outside of the conference. Now, here's the kicker here, though. They have 3 wins in league play against sub 300 teams. So maybe, hopefully, most likely, this record comes down to earth quite a bit. But for the moment, the North Carolina A&T club basketball champions 2011-ish, whenever that was, they are doing well in the Coastal.
Yeah, well, this league's just odd. It feels very haves, nots. I thought there'd be a bigger amount of blowouts, like just looking at the KenPom stat, because you've got the teams close to top 100 and a bunch of teams not in the top 300, but they're only middle of the road in terms of most blowouts in the league. I kind of think we see that go up as the Charlestons and Delawares and Hofstras and Drexels play more of Campbell, NCA&T, Hampton, but like Hampton's been more feisty than I thought they would be. NCAA&T's been more feisty than I thought they would be. So perhaps there is more parity in that conference than I realized.
Indeed. And speaking of surprises, these are all surprises, but Green Bay in the horizon, 7-3. Now, we had a discussion preseason. I was more on the IUPUI train. It was wrong. Jim and Matt liked Green Bay a lot more. They were right. Did they think Green Bay was going to be 7-3 currently and competing for a conference title?
No, Your Honor.
I mean, I really do not understand this. Sundance Wicks, a wizard? Perhaps. Extreme shooting fortune on both ends? For sure. Number 2 in the league in three-point percentage. Number 1 in three-point percentage defense. Number 1 in the league in free throw percentage. Number 2 in the league in free throw percentage defense. So, regression's coming for Green Bay a bit. They have Noah Reynolds. He might be the best player in the league.
That's it.
He's playing like it.
He's unbelievable, yeah.
It's just you saw the cold game against Northern Kentucky, and it's like, oh, okay. This is kind of the type of efforts we expect to see a little bit going forward. I don't think Green Bay is going to be there in the top 2 at the end of the season, but hey, right now, tip the cap to the Phoenix. UC San Diego out in the Big West, currently 6-1 in that conference.
Juggernaut.
Absolute wagon, absolute juggernaut, a team I'm finally surrendering to a bit. They've climbed from 235 to 119 in KenPom. This is by far their best season as a D1 program. This team lost to Idaho in the non-con. They've kind of come out of nowhere. I know they got a Pope eligible.
McGee was the 2-time transfer. Yep.
McGee eligible clearly has been a boon to their program, but gosh, I guess we just say he's a really good coach, Matt, Eric Olin.
Yeah, we knew that coming in. He was really, really highly regarded. This program was like dominant before moving up. And they had some injury. I mean, when they came up during the COVID, like that was a tough time to be promoted. And then they kind of had the transition stuff. Again, this is their last year in transition purgatory. So it sucks. Like they're going to have a banner program year and they won't get to capitalize on it. And next year they're going to lose, I think, Pope and 1 or 2 other starters. So it's like they can't run it back for like that, last stand with the actual postseason berth that's possible. So it just stinks. I mean, it may be the dumbest rule in all of the NCAA, and they have plenty. It's a high bar, but that might be the dumbest rule. Is the 4 years?
It is the dumbest rule
for no reason. I don't understand it. So whatever.
It is the dumbest rule. Yes, good call in the chat, Harrison. Lafayette is where we're going next. The Patriot. Lafayette is 6-0 in the Patriot. 6-0. This team is 318th in KenPom. There are 6 teams higher in the Patriot League in KenPom than Lafayette. Their defense has been nails. They've won at Colgate and at Boston. I think there's something there to this team. I don't think they are this good, but they clearly have some sort of it factor that makes me kind of believe they're finishing in the top 3-ish of this league. I'm just blown away, Jim. I think I believe you previewed the Patriot, right?
Sure did. Yeah. And I don't think even McGarvey thought they would be atop the league with a win over Colgate right now. And, he's an optimistic guy. He also said he thought they'd play faster. They haven't really done that. They've been just dominant defensively because Vanderbond is like a power conference level shot blocker, and no one in this conference has that. That's been kind of what they've lived on. They should have lost to Bucknell this weekend. Bucknell missed 2 free throws while up 3, and then Lafayette hit a crazy out of bounds play 3 to go to OT. Apparently that's the 5th time in the last 6 meetings between those two that they've gone to overtime, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, 6-0. Still, I can't project them to win the league. I think at some point they're going to come back down to earth. That roster, like their guards just aren't good, but like Mark Butler and Pettit somehow get them enough late buckets late. The 6-0 record doesn't match my eye test with them, Kai, but
Yeah.
credit to them for finding ways to win.
Again, drunk conference
League's bad,
standings.
Kai.
What?
League's bad. League's
The
just really
Patriot
bad.
is very bad. Yes,
It's
Colgate
like the
is
worst
a
it's
shell of
ever
itself.
been. I don't know
think
how
it
far
is.
back I want to go, but it
I think
feels
it's the
like
worst
it
it's
is.
ever been. You don't
Yeah.
even have the dominant team, and everybody else
Right.
is also not good.
Yeah, they're a 16 seed no matter who wins the league, I think. And then finally, the drunkest conference in America, maybe the actual most drunk because of the Midwest, the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. Let's just real quick paint a picture of the standings here. Akron, Toledo, they're at the top. Expected. Okay, no big deal. Then it gets dicey. Bowling Green, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, tied at 5-2 in the league. Absolutely bananas. Bowling Green, maybe, guys. I buy with Todd Simon coming to town. He brought in talent. Never did I expect Western Michigan, Central Michigan to be 5-2 at this point in the league. Going down, Kent State is 3-4. I thought Kent State would win the league or finish right next to Akron. They are 3-4 and struggling. Ohio also, a perennial league contender, is 3-4. Surprising all around. And then finally in the basement, and this might not be too surprising to some people, but it is to me. NIU, Northern Illinois, is 0-6. They are in the basement by themselves. They beat the following teams in the non-con: App State, Georgia State, Little Rock, and DePaul. Not world beaters of programs besides App State this year, but still programs that are pretty darn good for the most part in a MAC setting. And yet they can't seem to get it going in MAC play. So, Matt, you previewed some of the MAC, or maybe all of the MAC. Your thoughts?
Did I do all the MAC?
Did you do all the MAC?
Man, it was a long
You did
time
all
ago.
the MAC. You
I did all the
split
MAC.
the horizon, right?
I split the
Have you-
Horizon and
have
Big
you
Sky. I
penned-
did all of the MAC. It's Matty Mac. I own this league, although I've bet pretty terribly on it because it's been so drunk. I've been handicapping sober. The league's been drunk. I need to also get drunk when I handicap
the
this league
secret.
to match the state of the league.
That's how we win.
That's how we win.
Have you penned a slight apology to Ali yet? He's awesome. Come
Yeah,
on.
he's been
You're
good.
like,
No, I
you
bet
thought he
against
wouldn't make a
Akron.
difference for them. Yeah.
I bet against Akron last night. Ohio should cover that game, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But Akron's legit. Like the only thing that's not drunk that's played as expected is Akron just being awesome. Their front court's amazing. Their guards have been good enough. They don't have to be that great. They just have to be like some semblance of a seesaw balance to that awesome front line with Freeman and Ali.
Yeah, I mean, they won at Kent State without arguably their two best guards in Johnson and Tribble. Like that was impressive.
Impressive, although more an indictment on Kent State. That's what's been the biggest bummer is I think we wanted to see the Kent States and Ohio's really like look like the class of the conference like Toledo has, right? Toledo's answered that bell. Kent State hasn't. Ohio hasn't. Injuries have been a big part of that, allowing an opening for Central Michigan to kind of rise out of nowhere. I'm not sure I believe it's legit. Western Michigan, I believe more. Central Michigan, I'm sort of selling as like we'll see where we're at in a month, but I'm inclined to believe it's not going to stick. Eastern Michigan's really like I thought there'd be like a post Amani Bates like galvanized around losing that.
There
and
was
maybe
for a
playing.
second.
There was, and then like now they're 1-6 and they've been absolutely terrible.
Right.
And NIU's been hurt, but they'll be better when they're healthy. So we'll see. It is drunk though, Kai. It's very inebriated.
A hammered league, Jim. Okay. Are we done with thoughts? Do we want to go to previews? Jim, I noticed you're saying skip your All-Americans.
Yeah, we'll do an All-American dive next week. I know the Athletic just came out with mid-season All-Americans. Spoiler, I agree strongly with their first team,
Okay.
all five of them. But we'll talk more about it next week. Hopefully, we'll all bring thoughts about where we think that those teams should be.
The only name I had written down, Jim, was not a fun my guy because he's sort of like too famous, but RJ Davis was the my guy I wanted to. I feel like I keep wanting to be like, hey, this guy's really good. Let's all step back and appreciate it. He's really good. But
He will get
also skipping.
some just due in that All-American discussion next week. Agree, he's in first team All-American. Athletic agree with that. So yeah, let's talk previews, Kai.
Game previews, a lot of good games coming up this weekend. We will be, again, previewing these as part of our Saturday Best Bet show this weekend. So tune into that, 10 a.m. Central on this channel. But first, Friday, Big Ten game, Michigan State at Wisconsin. The Badgers projected to be around 4-point favorites per KenPom. The Kohl Center, Matt, Big Ten home has been incredible this season, both from a just teams winning games perspective and teams covering spreads, if that's your cup of tea. The Badgers, number one right now in the Big Ten at 7-1, just ahead of Purdue. Your thoughts in this game?
It feels like Sparty wins this game, Jim. You're gonna have a better beat on the historical sort of inklings between these two, but it feels like Sparty kind of steals this game out of nowhere, debunking the Big Ten home courts are invincible. And just for the current update, they are 31-21 against the spread this year.
That's
So
very
I mean,
good.
it's basically worth like 5-6 points. It's pretty impossible. And the Kohl Center clearly holds its weight in gold in terms of home toughness there. Wisconsin's defense, Jim, if there's a nitpick, that feels like where I'd go just because I'm looking at some of their conference only stats here. I've been seeing some of the Twitter musings. That's where they're a little bit concerned long term. Not defending the rim at an elite level. Like I know they're not super athletic up front, but they are, we know they're positionally sound. We know they have height and size up front, but can they defend the rim? Are they missing like a pogo stick type defender? I think everything else is there. Like I've kind of come full circle on Chucky Hepburn, and Storr's been a complete revelation. But like that's my one concern for them in this matchup, but also big picture.
Yeah, I can't believe they've won 3 in a row at East Lansing. For a while, it was that is a house of horrors for Wisconsin. Is going to Michigan State. Tom Izzo, it's the one like Bo Ryan can't solve is him, and seems Greg Gard has sort of figured it out a little bit. I do kind of expect this one to flip, a little road reverse. On the other hand, Wisconsin has lost 2 in a row at the Kohl Center to Michigan State, so the road team has won, I believe, 5 in a row in these matchups. And yeah, just it doesn't feel like Wisconsin is gonna separate themselves from the Big Ten. They're shooting like crazy in Big Ten play. They're first in 3-point, 2-point, and free throw percentage. I sort of buy a couple of those, but the 3-point percentage, they're way over what they shot in the non-conference. So for that to continue and for them to stay atop the league would be surprising. I will say Michigan State steals it on the road there, Kai.
Yeah, I'll lean towards Sparty as well there, Jim. I think it's a good time to hop back on the Spartan train. To Saturday we go. Again, quicker previews right now. We don't know actual spreads. We'll talk about them a lot on our Best Bet show. But Mississippi State does host Auburn. And this is a big deal. Number one, Mississippi State still needs to build wins for its resume for the tournament. Number two, Auburn, this is their 4th true road game, I believe. Maybe it's their 5th after Alabama. Yeah, 5th after Alabama. So they'll be a little more road tested by now. Mississippi State's been a tough team, in my opinion, to peg. They step up. They beat Tennessee. They fade against Kentucky. They fade against, I'm drawing a blank, Alabama. Faded against Alabama as well. Jim, what do we think about this game?
I think Auburn's too highly valued, right? I think this is where, maybe this week, I don't know if they lose both. So I'd love to know the result of Auburn, Alabama, but I just think Mississippi State has played well enough in some of these big home spots, especially that Tennessee game, where I think they can get it done. They have enough to compete at the rim on both ends, where Auburn has been just especially dominant. So between Tolu Smith being a little healthier and the athleticism of Jeffries and Cam Matthews, I think Mississippi State can hold up their mat against a very good Auburn team, but I'm most terrified of Auburn at home.
I am too. I think here's what you do. Auburn's going to lose one, if not both of these games, and I'm still going to believe that they're legit. And so
Yeah.
that's the time to go out and buy your futures ticket on Auburn, because I do think Auburn's a really good team. They just haven't seen what Alabama, and then to go from Alabama to Mississippi State, like that's such a white to black night and day stylistic shift in terms of how they play, especially with how Mississippi State's got Tolu Smith back. They're going to play, bully ball up front. Not that Auburn can't handle that, right? They got Jani Broom. But I think in this matchup on the weekend, I think I'd lean toward the Fighting Stark Vegases and Chris Jans at home. Just seems like it's a repeat of their big home effort against not Alabama, Kentucky. Thank you.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Thank you. Last 2 games for Tolu Smith, 26-8, 25-11. Certainly seems to be rounding into form.
Kansas goes to Iowa State on Saturday as well. The Hilton Magic, we know it. We know it well. Fantastic venue. Tamin Lipsey, I would bet he's back for this game. He might play against Kansas State today. We don't know yet. We're recording this before the game tonight. But I would guess he's back for KU. Kansas, Jim mentioned it. They have not looked good in the Big 12 road scene quite yet, and they've played UCF, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. This is a different animal. The spread's going to be interesting here, Jim, because KenPom puts this Iowa State -5. That's crazy, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't love this KU team still. I think with the Furphy breakouts, and they even got a good Timberlake game at West Virginia, it should be like, oh man, now we're seeing the A plus alpha Kansas version, and it's not quite there. Scott mentioned in the chat that DeJuan Harris hasn't been all that great in league play. That's nightmarish in this matchup. The best turnover forcing team in the entire country. I know Harris is still a steady hand, but if you're not getting the scoring contributions from him, you're going to have to play a lot more through KJ Adams, McCullough, and they've got some bodies to throw at Dickinson at least. This it's not quite Big Ten home court, Matt, but I love Hilton Coliseum. I think they're 10-1 against the spread at Hilton this year. Iowa State's been a terrific home team. I think they win, and I mean I don't think they blow out KU, but by 5-7.
I mean, I think KU wins this game. I do. I have watched. Yeah, DeJuan Harris has been a little bit. Yeah, I think they win this game. DeJuan Harris has been a little shaky, and it's concerning because he's like very reluctant to shoot, even more so than he was to start, and he hasn't made the ones he's taken. And then he turns over 5 times at home against Cincinnati. Like I thought he was a robot with the ball. It's like to see him cough it up 5 times, just like whoa. And the margin for error is so thin with this team; they have no depth. I do think the Furphy thing is real. And I think Kansas with I think these big games on the road, I know obviously West Virginia doesn't look great, right? But like these big games, like the true Big 12 conference games, Iowa State, Kansas State, I think they rise for those games and play well. I don't know why, just a stupid gut feeling, but I feel like this is a game they're going to play well in.
Even like the IU game, I don't know if they played that well. Like I don't just
no, they didn't. They probably should
road Kansas hasn't been that good.
I don't know where boy, that's gonna be spread dependent for me. So we'll see what
Kansas is by far the most like you can dissect them till the cows come home.
Just a million different ways.
We'll see what they are until March. I feel like we should treat them like Arkansas. It's like, well, Arkansas is now so bad they're not going to make it to March, but KU, it's like we'll see you in March what it looks like.
Yeah, that's true. Pac-12, Oregon's hosting Arizona. I tell you what, I thought Oregon would pretty much take off once Dante and Biddle started playing, but guess what, Matt? They've lost 2 in a row. They have not really looked any better with Dante in the lineup, and that kind of reflects what they've been doing lately without him, which is that injuries haven't mattered for this team. Your thoughts? Arizona dropping another game in the Pac-12 play would be surprising in general.
I still love Oregon. I'm glad Jim brought it up on our futures sections. The 2 losses were the mountain trip, and they got Colorado fully healthy back at home, where they've been basically invincible this year, and then almost beat Utah on the second leg, and Utah is pretty desperate too. I just think it's a good team. It's still a very good team. I think you're going to forget about them because it's Oregon. They had kind of a rocky start. Oregon always does this. I think this is kind of the start of maybe a run here. I think Oregon rattles off. I'm looking at the schedule now. I think they're going to beat Arizona 2 at home. I think this is like a home sweep at the pit. Oregon rises, and they go and play the 2 corpses of the LA schools next weekend, USC, UCLA, and all of a sudden they'll be 9-2 in the Pac-12.
So you think Oregon wins against Arizona? They're going to be 5-7 point dogs in this game.
I think they sweep both.
Wow.
I'll go the other way. I'll be the road team apologist here. Arizona has not been good on the road so far this year. They did steal the one at Duke early, but lost at Stanford, lost to Washington State. Not all that great. And really the UCLA performance at home was concerning. They're down 15.5 in that game. That is alarm bells, but
Arizona defense.
Well, the shooting numbers, I actually live bet Arizona in that game.
It's really good. It's 5th in the country.
UCLA was 6 for 9 from 3 in the first half of that game. I think Arizona was like 3 for 16. So I live bet it. Hooray. It hit. Good job, Wildcats. Way to come back. I think they steal one at Oregon. I do not think it's going to be any sort of emphatic performance. It's going to be an awesome game. I think they steal one, Kai.
Good. Matt, you don't like the Arizona defense?
Pac-12 has been a little shaky. I think it's going to be exposed by Oregon.
Number one
Pac-12 defense. But to be fair, that league is like the most efficient league in the country right now. Oh, no, it's not. It's 14th. Okay.
Yeah, and then number 1 in defense, and that includes giving up 16 for 25 from 3 against Stanford. Like,
interesting.
With that, that's still pretty good to be number 1.
Washington State, I thought drove on them. I don't know. I will question marks. Perimeter defense, Arizona. If you're an Arizona fan, let me know if I'm crazy. I don't know. Can't contain the ball. Oregon can drive. Concerns.
Last one here. A10 for you A10 fanatics out there. Hopefully this game is still between 2 undefeated teams. That would be great for drama reasons. But Dayton is going to Richmond. Richmond right now is 5-0 in the conference. They've looked great. Their defense has been really good. And Dayton's been an absolute juggernaut. Dayton will likely be a short favorite here. And guess what? I'm not going against Dayton. I think Dayton is hands down the best team in this league. They could run the table, Jim.
Yeah, I've been fully bought in on Dayton now for a couple games. They've consistently had trouble at LaSalle as a program, and I think they feared going into that game, and they won by 12, despite LaSalle getting Anwar Gill back and having a great underdog coach in Fran Dunphy. So this team just clicks very well. Holmes has fully asserted himself as an All-American caliber guy. Their shooters get good shots, and they knock them down when they do. Ball movement is very unselfish. I trust Dayton, Matthew, to get it done there, although Richmond is a very root canal-esque team to play against.
Yeah, it's just a bad matchup for Richmond, right? Like Neil Quinn has been sort of what opens up that offense. No one in the league can really guard him one-on-one. Like watching Loyola struggle to guard him one-on-one with two pretty beastly interior defenders and Ruben and who the other guy is, like that was like, okay, wow, Neil Quinn's a weapon. But Dayton, Deron Holmes, I mean, you can neutralize that pretty quickly. Just don't let Jordan King go bananas and you're probably going to be fine. And their road performances this year, one in SMU, one handily at Cincinnati, one killed Davidson, double digits at Duquesne, beat LaSalle by 12. Yeah, they can win anywhere. They're good. Their style travels, I think, as the cliche goes.
Agreed. All right, fellas, we're going to end our podcast with some reviews. Again, thank you, everyone out there, for joining. Subscribe, please, to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast platform you're listening to right now. But if you want to stick around, listen to these reviews. There's some questions in here, some more discussion of college basketball. So without further ado, let's get started. Friend of the podcast says, best college basketball pod in the game. Long-term listener, love it. He's a Virginia alum / fanatic. He has a question about Coach Tony Bennett. How long do you expect Tony to remain the coach of the Hoos? 5 more seasons, 10 more, less? Tough question when you consider the transfer portal era. We kind of assume Bennett doesn't love the NIL era. Matt is holding a 1-up. Oh, my goodness gracious. Anyways, his point is it seems like it takes his system a couple years to really gel, and I would agree with this. So in the transfer era, perhaps Virginia is not quite the program it once was under Bennett. Matt, you think this is his last season or next season is his last season?
I think Jeff Goodman keeps bringing this up because he knows something that the rest of us don't. I think I'm reading the tea leaves, and I think all of the narrative around Bennett potentially retiring early makes sense. I'm sure Virginia fans will call me crazy, and they know something I don't. I don't know. I do feel like there's a lot of momentum toward him hanging it up very prematurely, despite very impressive success. And I do also, worry that because they don't have like a boatload of money at UVA with NIL, they don't have like, just the system that they play. It's going to require continuity. It's going to be tough. And I mean, what's Bennett's making probably $1 million a year right now? He's got plenty of
$1 million.
Benjis.
I bet he's making way more
he's
than
making
$1 million.
quite a bit more than
He's
that.
making like
His base salary it's actually his base salary is pretty low, like relative to the ACC standards, I think. But I'm sure he has whatever. He is well paid. He's well compensated. I'm not saying he's like super well paid, but he's made plenty of money. I could see him riding off into the sunset, given the frustration akin to Jay Wright. Correct.
According to the Virginia pilot, Matt, his total compensation was $4.8 million last year. Yeah. So
okay, base salary 700. Yeah, I fit all the salary is just a fraction of the overall thing. We need to talk about the pie. My fault.
That sounds really nice. Jim, he's not gonna. He'll never get fired. This will be him deciding.
No.
Firing Tony Bennett. Virginia,
I think he'll leave soonish, though. I think he's pretty disillusioned with how the game is now. He is so developmentally based, as the reviewer mentioned. He's just not being able to have these guys in for as long as he wants to teach them the kind of principles that he prefers, even though he is recruiting guys for his system specifically. And I'm a little concerned, as the D1 docket mentioned with his skepticism of Ron Sanchez over at Charlotte. I hope they don't just do that automatic internal promotion, because that would not be good for Virginia, in my opinion.
Ooh, hey, what about Fern from Charlotte? Part of the chip off the old block?
I don't think you can bring him over above Sanchez. Richie McKay is the one that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, McKay is the obvious choice, right?
All right, Galley61 says, as with many others, discovered you through Mark Titus's show. So fantastic. Oh, yeah. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mark, for having us on. No specific question. Would just love a quick A10 minute next pod. Yeah, we can do that. The A10 is very tough to decide in the preseason, and I'm kind of eyeballing the standings right now. Yeah, there's some hit and misses there from my almanac page. So an A10 overview would be good next pod.
Well, it just even real quick right now, I don't think anyone besides Dayton is going to get in that large. So if you want
Correct.
to in the league or in the tournament, you're cheering against them in the tournament down the stretch, but you're cheering for them the rest of the way because there are, as Matt likes to say in the American, a lot of losable games. And Dayton has so far been immune to them, but I think they're the great white or great shining hope of this league.
It's a 2-bid league, Kai.
2-bid. Well, only if Dayton.
Yeah. Yes, they will be
Okay.
losing to my Loyola Chicago Ramblers, who is my pet team in this league. I think they're going to win the A10 tournament.
Yeah, see, I think Loyola is going to fall down out of the top 5 of the standings. I think St. Joe's is going to go up. I think St. Bonaventure will finish top 5. They're 2-4 right now. That team's way too good to be that low. LaSalle will finish last. Duquesne will be better. George Washington's a cockroach. You can't kill it. Yeah, there's lots of good angles in the A10. Very interesting stuff. Okay, J.C. Watner, TCU has made him believe again. Let's see here. Basically a TCU thing. Emmanuel Miller is playing like an All-American, and this team might be the best team Dixon's ever had in Fort Worth. Do you agree? Update, he said. He wrote half of this review before the Cincy game, so he's not as hyped anymore. Playing in the Big 12 is annoying, and I just want one conference game to not feel like an Elite Eight game. Go Frogs. Hey, that's what makes the Big 12 great, man. This league is heavyweight battle after heavyweight battle. It's awesome.
Yeah, my good buddy D Clark, that's a Cincinnati fan, is like, God, every freaking game is just like a heart attack now that we're in this league. Yeah, it's there's lots of wild swings. You can go 10-10 and look like a terrific team. I could see TCU doing that.
Yeah, we discussed the Big 12 in detail. I'm more of a believer in TCU. It sounds like to my colleagues, but regardless, we all think they're a very good team, tournament team.
I love the 17, or what was the Bain? Was there a team with Bain and who's the point guard I loved?
I don't think this team's better than last year with healthy Mike Miles.
I also agree with that. I think
he
it was
had
actually
not
like his
missed that
third
like
best team.
4-game stretch with his MCL or whatever, the hyperextended knee. They get a better seed. They go farther. That's my guess.
Yeah. That was my point. This is his third best team. Dixon's done a pretty freaking amazing job at TCU. That's the final take there.
Kville Panther 24. It just says, love it. Always looking for new CBB podcasts this time of year. It's a great listen. Thank you very much. And then our 2 final reviews. I think these are different people. One is from longtime listener and one is from longtime listener 69. So I think they're different. It's just funny that they're leaving reviews at the same time. So longtime listener says, best podcast, period. He said, this is my favorite podcast, not just college basketball podcast, not just favorite podcast where 3 dudes talk about how college kids spend their evenings in the winter, but favorite podcast, period. Fantastic. Yeah. Listened to every episode since the 150th range. Thank you very much for that. 3 questions. How's Jim's knee? Don't think we've gotten an update for a while. For those new, Jim tore his ACL over a year ago. Jim, how is it?
It's great. I have not played 5-on-5 basketball, but I played some 3-on-3 down in the very gym where I shredded said ligament. It gets sore every once in a while, Kai, but it is as much as it can be a functional, healthy knee now. So thank you for the question.
Number 2, this would take a while, but you mentioned that Wazoo is the best team in Washington, which made me want to hear the 3MW's best team in each state list. Or maybe if you did this in the offseason, could be a best dynasty in each state or best coach in each state's history. I like this. Let's add this to the...
I'm currently putting that in our pod parking lot outline of ideas. Yes.
That'll be an awesome.
I have to do some non-D1 research for Alaska. I had this thought I was watching True Detective season 4. It's like, there's no D1 teams in Alaska. Crazy. Big state.
Correct.
And I think they used to be the Great Alaskan Shootout. There's good players that come from there. Anchorage, decent sized city. Anyway, tough travel, obviously.
Tough travel. Number 3. I've mentioned this in a previous review, but I'm a music composer. Of course, yes. If we want to get some updates, the jingles, the transitional music, just a DM away. We really appreciate that, Mr. Longtime Listener. Keep up the great work. Yes. We might need some stuff for our YouTube shows since we're really leaning into YouTube now. Okay, finally, longtime listener 69. He says, at this point, it's deniable. 3 of the most knowledgeable podcasters, not just in college hoops, but in sports. Wow, goodness gracious. Really appreciate that. Says we're knowledgeable. This is fantastic. Not to mention, nice to see the depth of knowledge to extend beyond just the big names. He said, I've even heard my podunk alma mater, Purdue Fort Wayne, go Dons.
Tough pod
We
for them
talked
today.
about them today. Yes, unfortunately. Get a couple mentions this season. Well, there you go. Take the good with the bad. This is the only college hoops pod he listens to. Nothing else can fill the void like 3MW. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. Gas us up, baby. Gas us up. Okay.
Yep.
At this point in the season, pretty well in tune with the major conferences, but not the mid-major. Are there a handful of teams you'd recommend to watch and follow closely? Not necessarily dark horse tournament teams, but just fun teams to watch and pay attention to that will play with some high-quality hoopage. Thank you again. He is an IU fan by birth and a UNC fan by childhood. Okay.
Nice.
Love the review. Well, the SoCon comes to mind. Sanford is a pretty fun watch. Pretty fun team to watch, Tim, with the Chore. And start tonight. Furman. Yeah, the game is tonight. Abe corrected me in the chat earlier. Sanford and Furman, good teams to watch.
Yeah, Big Sky. Also highly recommend Eastern Washington. Matt's delight, David Riley, one of his favorite coaches in the country. Get a great one on Thursday night this week. If you're listening to it the day after it comes out, Eastern Washington's hosting Northern Colorado, who has been the most inferno offense in the country recently. A projected score of 88-80. You're going to see a lot of great shot making, a lot of skill on the court. Big Sky has been a very, very fun league and super efficient scoring out there too.
Yeah, my answer is there's two teams I try and watch almost every time they're on. FAU is like I have to watch them when they're on. Cornell is the other team I try and catch them when they're on. I think just in terms of aesthetically pleasing team to watch play, I think the Big Red are right up there. Can
FAU stop getting down 10-15 in every single game, Matt? That's my humble
them
request.
In Memphis, Jim, it'll be the same thing. I think them in Memphis are going to win like 3 more overtime games this year. I feel pretty confident about that.
All right, that does it. Thank you for sticking around if you did for the review section. We will see you guys on Saturday for our Best Bet show, 10 a.m. Again, hopefully good news coming on that front. We're almost there. We're almost to the end zone on a deal. We'll let you guys know very, very soon. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. And, of course, enjoy your weekend. We will see you on Saturday.